Would you like to see the tapestry?
Her face. She's not amused.
Oh, that's hilarious.
She was not amused.
No, she wasn't. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. So we are I am Andrew, aka Incestuous Mindgasms. And we've got the Grimdark Centrist, aka the Woke Centrist, aka Dusty Cubes, aka Dustin Cubit, rather. And we've got also Chris here, aka Tubin the Cable Guy, aka Chris James, aka CJ. And we are going to talk about episode 3 and 4 of House of the Dragon, of course. And Dusty had that great idea to do a cold open of the king farting, which I had forgotten about. I had forgotten that happens in episode 4. So in episode 3, basically the highlight for me was Daemon and the Dragon versus the CRABFEEDER. And episode 4, of course, is another one that's par for the course for a Game of Thrones show, because there's murder, sex, lies, and incest. So yeah, I guess we could maybe we could talk about these one at a time, but it's okay to do, and this is going to be spoiler filled, of course, for anyone watching. So yeah, we could talk about them one after the other, but if we end up talking about some stuff in episode 4, it's not a big deal. I'm sure I'll do that too. So since we haven't talked with you in a while, Chris, let's start off. How do you like? Well, actually, we didn't hear your opinions about any of the first 4 episodes so far. So what do you think about the show in general, and how do you think, what's your kind of like rating or opinion of episode 3 and 4 in comparison to the other episodes?
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to what you guys think so far as well, because yeah, we could play catch up here for a minute. So far so good for me. I mean, yeah, I just feel like I don't know. I'm not waiting for them to screw it all up, but it's like, so okay. So far, all the aspects of the show that I enjoyed from Game of Thrones have kind of worked its way into this. It's character based so far. They're focusing on families, lots of grotesque violence and sex present, and lots more dragon scenes. So yeah, so far so good. I know we're only like 4 episodes in, 5 if you include tonight's episode. Yeah, so there's only a little to tackle so far, but yeah, no, I've enjoyed the series so far.
Cool.
Yeah, and we can go into further depth as to all the politics and interworkings of the plot and all that kind of stuff from 3 to 4. But yeah, what have you guys thought about it so far?
Yeah, I think I like it a lot too. I think it's it's got that Game of Thrones feel, and I like all the other dragon stuff too, and all the political manipulations, and of course in episode 4 we get more into all of the sex stuff. There wasn't that much in the first 3 episodes, and of course there's incest too, which is also par for the course for Game of Thrones, and all the brutal violence. Yeah, I like it so far too, and like you were saying too, it seems really good so far. I hope it keeps getting good, and I hope they don't kind of fumble the ending like they did with the ending of Game of Thrones. I want it to be good, so hopefully it'll still keep being good, and I'm very pleased so far. And I think I like it. They're not really directly comparable, because the new Lord of the Rings of Power show is more classic epic fantasy, and House of the Dragon is grimdark fantasy. But I like House of the Dragon more than the Rings of Power show also so far. So Dusty, I know you and I talked a little bit about this, but for Chris and for the audience, what are your general impressions of the show so far?
Chris. Is Chris going to talk first?
Yeah, you just did.
Okay.
Yeah.
General impressions. Mine are positive so far. I did not retain anything from the book aside from like the battle stuff. That's probably not going to happen until season 5.
Yeah.
So all of
And
this early stuff I'm not really remembering from the book. So a lot of it is still new. I heard they're embellishing quite a bit as well with some
yeah,
of this stuff.
I just
But yeah,
remember when I reread the book recently, I focused on all the stuff with these characters from the show. So I remember some of that stuff. So I know how some things end up with the characters, but a lot of it is still like surprising for me too, which is nice.
yeah. So if we're doing like a straight up comparison to the Game of Thrones, I would say the scope seems a lot smaller, right? It seems like everything is tied to King's Landing. Like we don't have anything else in the world that we're concerned about. I guess in the last episode we got to see the other place, the steps stones or whatever you want to call
Right.
them. But it seems like I like the political intrigue. It just seems like the political intrigue in this case seems very small. Like the actual players don't span the globe, but they did kind of. This episode 4, they kind of imply that it's getting bigger, but they haven't shown it, right? Because they imply that the sea snake is talking with the free cities, but we don't get to see these free cities or these supposed talks.
Yeah, maybe they're keeping the plot kind of narrow so far because I think a lot of people's complaints to the first one is that the family was so wide and that there were so many characters to learn right off the bat in the first like 3 seasons that it's easy to get lost. And like
Yeah.
even right now with House of Dragon, if you ask me to name, like I'm gonna lose names of characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Constantly,
Yeah.
just because it's hard to keep up with everybody. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
Yeah, for
characters, a lot of
sure.
families, a lot of kingdoms, yada yada.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dusty and I had trouble keeping up with that at first. I mostly remember the names of, I guess, most of the main characters like Rhaenyra, Viserys, Daemon, and Alicent Hightower, and the Sea Snake, and I think that's probably about it in terms of the names of the characters that I remember. Yeah, it does seem.
Sea snake's the wife is named Rhaena or something, but she
What?
plays the sea snake's wife kind of plays a pivotal role later on.
Oh right, yeah, that's true. And oh yeah, we didn't talk about also because Dusty and I talked about this before, Chris, in episode, I think it was in episode 2, where the sea snake wants Viserys to marry his 12-year-old daughter, which is also par for the course for a Game of Thrones show. I will give you male children in 2 years when I am capable of doing so. And yeah,
Well, we kind of had the
it is.
same thing play out in episode 4 where Rhaenyra was like having an audience for all of her suitors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like an old ass man who comes up and he's like, "Yeah, you're an old guy." And then there's like a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like there's like some bully in the background who insults this kid. And the bully's probably like, I don't know, maybe twice his age. And he like kills the bully basically.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah. You're right
Definitely
too
grim
that
dark.
it's you're right too that it's way smaller in scope, at least right now. I wonder if it's going to expand in scope a little bit if it keeps more to the plot of Fire and Blood, then it seems like it will still be mostly small in scope. But yeah, there are advantages and disadvantages to that too. Yeah, I've kind of appreciate the pros and cons of both approaches. Like in Game of Thrones, the way it started off, like you were saying, Chris, there are so many characters at first that you don't even know who to focus on, and it seems it seems like basically the family. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name right now, but the family. The Starks. It seems like the Starks in Winterfell are who are going to be the main characters and the protagonists who you're supposed to root for at first, and then it jumps around so much so that we see that they're kind of, well, everyone's kind of morally gray. There are some more good characters at first and some bad characters, and then the good characters get corrupted, so they become morally gray. Like they're still kind of the good guys, but they're willing to do terrible things in pursuit of their higher long-term goal. And the bad guys get worse, and you don't really even know until maybe the last 2 seasons or so that it kind of ends up being the case that Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen are essentially the main characters of the show, or the protagonists that you're supposed to be rooting for. So, because I don't remember that much from Fire and Blood either, I wonder if it's going to be, well, and I kind of expect it to actually be the case that, Rhaenyra is going to be kind of morally corrupted at least a little bit, and maybe get together with Daemon, and he's already established as violent and erratic and unpredictable. So this could go in all sorts of interesting places, especially since we see in episode 4 that Daemon pretends to finally give up protesting Rhaenyra being the heir to the throne, and Daemon basically accepts that either she or the new male heir from Alicent Hightower, after she's married Viserys, either one of them, and he pretends to basically bend the knee to Viserys, but it turns out that he's just trying to do anything possible to screw him over behind his back, and like has sex with his niece Rhaenyra, and is trying to cause all this chaos and shit like that. So yeah, that's all very interesting.
I somehow have a feeling that she's gonna get. I know the king gave her some kind of substance that after he found out that night.
Yeah.
I somehow think she's gonna get pregnant, and then we're gonna be dealt with this plot kind of dilemma of was it the knight Christensen that impregnated her, or was it Daemon?
I think it's I think the knight's name is Christian Cole or Christian Cole. I think it. That he basically, like, Viserys gave Rhaenyra kind of like basically like the herbal tea equivalent of the morning after pill after, but she still could get,
or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but she still could get pregnant, or she could fuck like one or both of them again and still get pregnant, and there could be confusion about whether, if she has a child, whether it's justifiably an heir to the throne, because if it's Kristen Cole's his kid, then obviously it's not, but if it's Daemon's, then it is. And then I'm sure one of the reasons that Daemon did that is because he is the rightful heir to the throne in some ways, and Viserys named Rhaenyra to avoid Daemon being the new king because he's so violent, erratic, and unpredictable. But if he has a child with Rhaenyra, then that'll basically cement kind of both of their positions as heir to the throne in a little bit. So even if she ends up being the ruler, he could kind of be manipulating her and kind of ruling behind her back and that kind of stuff. So that would be interesting.
Though, he didn't finalize the act. He couldn't go through with it. I think he respects Rhaenyra too much to like do that, which is why he couldn't go through with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. That was interesting. They were they were making out and stuff, and it looked like he maybe was starting to fuck her, and then like got pissed off and punched the wall and ran away or something. That was interesting.
Is he probably overthought it? Like, because he's gonna fuck up her reputation just to get at the king. So
Yeah, episode 4 was sponsored by Pornhub, I think.
Yeah. 'Cause we had Allison just like being a damp rag in bed,
Yeah, that was
this like rotting old man.
Yeah. You can tell that she's just like checking out. It's like, but it's like really a rapey scene.
Well, it's just like she's not interested. She's just being used as a receptacle at that point.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So, Chris, what did you think of the first 2 episodes in particular? Since we didn't talk about them with you and before, which do you like more and why?
Ooh. Yeah, good question. Yeah, episode 1 was really good. What had happened in episode 2 again? Even though I know I saw it, I just can't.
Episode 2 was where Daemon stole the dragon eggs.
Oh yeah, okay, and then she gets it back from him at the end. Yeah. Also, disclaimer: I did watch episode 5 tonight, so I'm 1 episode ahead.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was out. That's cool. I'll watch that.
I saw it, but I was like, yeah, I gotta wait to watch it with my wife. I can't watch ahead.
Cool. Yeah. So did you like episode 1 or 2 more? I liked episode 1 more than 2.
Yeah, I liked episode now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, episode 1 I liked a lot more. I like the way it's set up so far. I know a lot of people have been pissing on Matt Smith and don't like him as a character, but I don't know. I think he can.
That's Daemon?
Daemon, yeah.
Because
dollar store Legolas.
The guy from the Crown. That's all I know him from.
Oh, okay. Is the criticism that he was the last actor to play Doctor Who, and they didn't think that they would buy him playing a grimdark character? Because I never really watched Doctor Who that much, but I think his performance is great as Daemon.
Yeah, and I think he can. I don't know. I think he's playing a good. He's towing the line between do I like this guy or do I not like him? Do you know what I mean? He's like he's like fucking everything up, but at the same time, he's I don't know. He can play an evil character good. I just don't know if he'll end up actually being the villain.
Yeah,
it's all said and done. I just.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I could see that too. Well, I mean,
right now he's the villain.
This is a mild spoiler for Fire and Blood, but the show might not necessarily follow it that directly, of course, but in the book they end up kind of allying. So if that happens in the show, then he could become like less of an evil character. Basically, that could be interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't even consider him evil. He's just really ambitious and impulsive.
But he seems to be the evil character right now, even though they haven't really established an evil character. He seems to be the guy.
Well, they did, but Daemon cut that guy in half.
Yeah, which is like
episode 3.
Did you guys talk about that and how why didn't you do that like a while ago? You know what I mean? Like, didn't it seem kind of weird that he just like, okay, now I'm gonna kick his ass and go in there and just like cut the shit out of everybody.
Well,
why didn't you do that last time?
That's a good segue actually, because let's get into talking about episode 3. So yeah, obviously Daemon kills the crab feeder. That's definitely my favorite part of the episode. All the parts with Daemon fighting the CRABFEEDER, and then eventually he kills him, and it's basically Daemon and his dragon is helping out, and he's fighting with the sea snake, and Daemon gets insulted when Viserys, the king, finally sends him some aid because he's still being rebellious and protesting Viserys naming Rhaenyra as the heir to the throne. And then all that other stuff is kind of what we alluded to earlier, with all of these suitors trying to get Rhaenyra, trying to marry Rhaenyra, basically, because she has all this noble Targaryen blood and she doesn't want to get married. So that whole part of the theme of the episode is that women must marry, and everyone's pressuring her to do that, but she really doesn't want to. But yeah, all the Daemon versus CRABFEEDER stuff I find more interesting, and I think, yeah, for me, I like episode 4 more than 3. And I know we talked a little bit about this before we started. I think I'm kind of torn between episode 1 and 4 being my favorite episodes. I like both of them because they both have like fucked up dark aspects. Of course, the first one has all sorts of brutal violence, and then episode 4 has all the sex and incest and stuff like that. But yeah,
Episode
Chris,
4 definitely is more. It gets the reward for more shock value, I would say.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
episode 1.
Definitely. So, well, what do you think about episode 3 in general, Chris, and in comparison to episode 4?
Okay, so sorry. Episode 3 is
Episode 3 is what I was just talking about. It's all the Daemon versus the CRABFEEDER, and then everyone, all the men are trying to marry
as well.
Yeah.
Allison, we jump forward a little bit between episode 2 and 3. I forgot to mention that. And Alicent Hightower has married the king because he proclaims that he's going to marry her at the end of episode 2, even though the sea snake wants him to marry his 12-year-old daughter so she can be connected to the Targaryen throne. And so we jump forward a little bit, and Alicent Hightower already has provided Viserys with a male heir, and she's pregnant again.
It's like a 2-year jump.
Yeah, something like that. So there's also that tension in episode 2. In episode 3, about how Rhaenyra's doubting that Viserys is going to fulfill his promise of naming her the heir now that he's had finally had a male heir, which of course his wife couldn't provide him with in episode 1. And we saw what to me was the most brutal part of the episode with that botched medieval C-section. Yeah, there's that whole interesting aspect of episode 3.
And what was that? Was episode 3, the C-section?
No, that was episode 1.
Yes, that's right. That was episode 1. Sorry, guys. I just finished the episode 5, so now I'm just
You're getting running together.
Well, I don't want to be like, oh, this is what happened, and that was actually in episode 3, not episode 4. You know what I mean? But I think now thinking back on it, I think episode 3 was more of just like a time filler. Because episode 4 was good. Yeah.
It was episode 3. We had the drunk king because he was like hammered throughout the whole episode.
Yeah, that's right.
And, he was getting pressure from like a lot of the council about basically, that the heir should be. They were subtly trying to hint that he should choose his son as like the new male heir. Mm-hmm. While the other issue was the king was trying to marry off Rhaenyra, and I think one of the candidates was like a Lannister. And he was like a twin, and his twin is like some meek dude, and then the other guy is like some arrogant guy. And they're trying to set her up with the arrogant like Lannister twin who gifts the king like a spear. And the hunt is like a complete farce too, because there's no actual hunt. It's just the king shows up with and stabs like a tied up deer. Like he didn't do shit.
Yeah,
he just
they already
the last blow.
They already caught it and they have it tied up so he can stab it. Yeah.
And he doesn't even he botches kind of like the first stabbing. It stabs it, but it doesn't die. And meanwhile, Rhaenyra's fed up and she goes off on her own with Sir Kristen Cole. And they kind of have like a camp out and they get attacked by some boar. And it's like a brutal boar murder scene. And she brings that back with her along with Kristen Cole.
Right.
It's like saying, yeah, I'm a badass too. I can kill my own shit and bring it and feed some people too, I think it's kind of trying to show a parallel of her as like someone who's strong enough to be named an heir. She actually did hunt, even though the thing attacked them in the forest. She has more of a claim on killing her prey than the king does.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
I think they also actually ran into the deer that they were supposed to capture in the first place, but they let it go.
Right. Yeah. So, what do you think about episode 3 in general, Dusty, and in comparison to episode 4?
I think I liked 3 more than 4. I just thought 3 had more emotional highs, especially like the battle scene. I was like, what the fuck is Daemon doing? It's like, is he trying to like sacrifice himself or what? And I was like waiting for like the dragons to come down. It's like, where's the dragon? Because he's not on it. They kind of foreshadowed that something similar was going to happen. But yeah, I liked that scene. I guess I'm glad they didn't show the dude getting chopped in half. That would have been pretty gruesome. But he was like dragging.
I thought that was interesting that they just skipped that brutal violence aspect and then just skipped to Daemon being covered in blood.
And he was dragging like the crab feeders, half of his body with his like entrails hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's proof. Usually you only bring back the head. I don't know why he wanted to bring back like half the dude's torso as well.
Yeah. Yeah, normally you would see in shows like that they would behead them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that seems like an unnecessary thing to carry across a battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was satisfying. And I like the unorthodox thing that happened. Like the king tries to send aid, and it seems that Viserys is genuinely cares about his brother's well-being, but he completely rejects it by beating up the messenger, which is kind of ridiculous in itself. It's not like that dude has anything to do with anything. He's just sending him a message. I think that's another display of why Daemon would be a horrible king.
Yeah, definitely. He's too fucking
unhinged.
impulsive. Yeah, definitely. Doesn't he literally kill the messenger?
I don't think he kills him. He just like beats him up like really badly.
I think he does, doesn't he?
He kills him? I don't know.
I think he does.
It's hard to say if he kills him. I know he gets beat. He doesn't get like stabbed or anything.
Yeah, we're just left with all those people attending him at the end of the scene there. So we don't know.
Okay. I seem to remember him beating him up and then stabbing him or something. Maybe I had a false memory about him being stabbed. But
there were no weapons used.
Okay. Yeah, that was cool about episode 3. So you said that you liked episode 3 more than 4 because of the emotional impact of events on the characters and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like the fart almost elevated it above, but it's like okay, like 4 it's mostly just like a lot of sex, I guess, and likes a lot of lying and trying to confront lies. So like the king is like, oh, well, Otto comes to him and he doesn't believe Otto, and it's weird because yes, she was down there with Daemon, but they didn't actually screw.
Well, they
That
kind of
never.
did. They kind of did, but he like stopped to be. It kind of seemed to me like basically they were in the process of fucking, or at least about to fuck, and then he just didn't come or something like that.
No, there was no coming or anything. They were just making out.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not like they didn't even disrobe. Like she disrobed with the knight. When they were in the brothel, they were just making out, and then he like stopped.
And he like
And
he tore some of her clothes off too. But she didn't get naked or anything.
no, they didn't have
Oh.
sex. Like he left. He left
Mhm.
frustrated. She was pissed off too. And
Yeah. I seem to remember that
she-
it went further than kissing myself. I don't know why I feel that.
It seemed like there
that
was
way.
like at least some thrusting or dry humping or some shit.
Yeah, I feel the same because that's why I was saying earlier about the I felt like there was like penetration and then he just pulled out and walked off. That's what I took out of that because that's why I was saying earlier we'd be left with a pregnancy kind of situation in the plot where like did Daemon impregnate her or did Christian impregnate her?
Yeah. That's
I don't know.
yeah.
I didn't get a sense that Damon finished or even penetrated it.
Yeah.
To me, it didn't seem like that. It was completely obvious that that's what happened with Sir Kristen Cole, but it's not with Damon. Like I didn't really get the sense that it went further than making out.
Okay. Well,
Because
either
that's
way,
how it ended. Because they were standing up and they were like playfully like kissing each other, and then that's when Damon just kind of started distancing himself.
it really seemed to
realizing
me.
what he was doing was
It
wrong.
really seemed to me like they started fucking and then he got pissed off and lost interest or something like that. But we know either way.
I don't think they were because they were too like in each other's faces and just like playfully kissing. Like when you're when you're thrusting like that, you don't like playfully make out and do stuff like that.
In episode 4, though, when Hightower says that he talked to the snitch, isn't that conversation more like I don't know, like
I wonder. It's interesting the dynamics between that too, because like I said, we know that either way, Daemon didn't come in Rhaenyra. So I wonder if part of the reason that she went and fucked Kristen Cole after was so she could get pregnant and claim that it's Daemon's baby. But then if that's gonna happen, then why would she lie to Alicent Hightower and people who were assuming that they fucked and lie to them and say that like basically nothing happened?
And
obviously, I think she was just sexually frustrated. I think.
Why would Hightower's what's his name? I forget his name, but anyway, he has to go to the king and tell and then give him the bad news, right?
The hand of the king.
Yeah, the hand. Do you think he's really sweating about them just making out, or if they're fucking, he's now sweating? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's getting secondhand information. Like
exactly, and I thought that secondhand information was that there was naughty shit going down between.
There is naughty shit, but Hightower made it seem like they completed the deed, and there was obviously the king thought that they completed the deed because he sent the moon tea to
Yeah, that's
Rhaenyra.
right. That's right. Maybe that's why me and Andrew think that it went further than a makeout session, though.
And you remember with Hightower, he was like extremely reluctant to say in plain language what was happening.
Yeah,
the king was like asking him, "Well, what were they doing? You know, tell me straight up."
Mm-hmm.
And I guess is that coupling means sex. So that's
and we know that they were in like a brothel, so we said they had an audience, and then we know that with the rumor mill they kind of exaggerate what happens and that sort of thing too. And then also speaking of the Hand of the King Hightower, that I think it's in episode 4 that Viserys finally figures out that that Hightower has been manipulating him to gain more power, and we figure out that what he literally did in the first 2 episodes, which is that he was sending Alicent to the king to basically kind of become friends with him, and then eventually he developed a romantic interest in her, and that was basically Hightower's plan all along, to get the king to, in the best case scenario, marry his daughter, so his bloodline can be connected to the throne.
Yeah, and Hightower gets fired.
Yeah, the king figures it out, and he finally figures it out, and you've been manipulating me, so you're done. Yeah.
I think the king is fine with being manipulated. However, because that's what their advisors do anyway, they try to manipulate you. The problem with the manipulation is that it was done in the best interest of Hightower and not the realm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the Hand of the King, you're right, it is kind of expected sometimes for the Hand of the King to do things that are in the best interest of the king or of the realm, and that could require some manipulation or going behind the king's back sometimes. And it seems like Viserys is the type of king who would be definitely at least more okay with that than some other rulers. But yeah, he did it for his own self-interest. Yeah, so I can see how that's more of the problem for sure.
I have another thing that happened in the show that supports my theory that Daemon didn't complete the deed. If you remember, when he comes back hung over, the king completely doubts the account that the king wants to get more answers from Daemon, and it seems like through their interaction, the king doubts that they actually had sex. And then Daemon says, well, even if that is the case, the optics are bad. So we could see at that point that it was kind of his plan all along to sow doubt in the queen's chastity, whether he completed the deed or not. Because there are a lot of rumors going on because there was an audience, so it's not going to be kept secret.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that seems to obviously be part of Daemon's plan too. So the rumor mill is making it known that she's been her virginity has been soiled. So you could totally see how Daemon would think that would hopefully, from his perspective, lead to all of the male suitors who want to marry Rhaenyra just losing interest because her purity is soiled. So that would basically make it more likely that she'll be the heir to the throne, or that he'll be the heir to the throne even.
yeah, and what's interesting too is that I think this plot line actually comes from a different part of Fire and Blood that happens to some different characters. Because there is this one thing I remember in Fire and Blood, and then there's this other rebellious, young Targaryen who goes out on the town, and she supposedly screws 3 different dudes. And that rumor mill comes about, and I think what ends up happening is 2 of the dudes get stationed in the middle of nowhere, and then one of the dudes gets challenged by her father, and he gets killed. Not her father, but the guy that had sex with his daughter at a brothel.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a similar situation that happens later in that book, but it happens with different characters.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I have the advantage of I never read any of the books. So I'm just TV only.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing because at least Game of Thrones as a story, they're very readable books that just they grab you and get you in there. Fire and Blood isn't so easy to get through. It's not a character-driven story. It's basically a history book.
Fire and Blood is basically a fake nonfiction history book about the history of the Targaryens. So yeah, it's way less readable than the Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones books.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I'm wondering too, what's gonna happen with the fact that Rhaenyra fucked Kristen Cole, because it seems like people always find out secrets in this world, so it seems like people are probably going to find out. And also I still it's still kind of unclear as to why she did that. It's almost as if she got horny from her sexual
well, she
encounter with
had blue
Daemon and she wanted
ovaries,
to fuck
man.
him. Or sorry,
She had blue ovaries.
what do you mean?
It's like the
Like blue
equivalent
balls.
of blue balls for women.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Like Daemon
So
didn't seal the deal, so she went to the next dude that she can reliably screw and seduce them.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I wonder too, like I mentioned before, if that's if part of that in her mind is to have some sort of scheme to get pregnant and claim that it's Daemon's kid, even though it actually isn't Daemon's kid. I wonder if her character is going to be that manipulative about it, because so far we haven't seen that she's been that manipulative.
No, it
No,
doesn't like it's showing her
she's
power though, right?
impulsive. Yeah, we can see now that she's somewhat of an impulsive character, at least for the past 2 episodes.
And
Like yeah, go ahead.
I think they're showing her off as like she's a woman and she'll get what she wants. Do you know what I mean? Like if she
Yeah, I could
wants
see that.
Sir, yeah, she'll go and bang him. Nothing's gonna stop her. She's soon to be the queen, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, that would
I
make
think
sense.
Rhaenyra has a big issue balancing freedom with the duties of her station. And we can see that a lot. They talk about that a lot in episode 4 when we compare Alicent's role and Rhaenyra's role. And I like it that they repaired their relationship. Now they're on like friendly terms again, which is nice because Rhaenyra in episode 3, Rhaenyra seemed like she had no friends. She was kind of like this mopey, depressed, older teenager that didn't know what to do with herself. At least in episode 4, it seems like she's gotten her support system back, which is
Mhm.
Alicent, and Alicent like gives her a heads up when shit's going down. It's like, hey, I overheard this thing about the brothel, and like Alicent seems like really actually concerned about what happened.
Yeah,
She's not
yeah.
trying to manipulate her or anything. And it seems like Alicent really isn't a manipulator. It's kind of like her father's doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think if her father pushed her to do what she did, she would actually have done that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I think you're right. And that's interesting from that perspective too, that Rhaenyra lies to her. It goes hardcore and says I swear in my dead mother's grave, basically, that basically nothing sexual happened with Daemon, and then Alicent believes her. And when
Mhm.
Alicent is talking to Viserys about it, she believes her, but he seems more reluctant to believe her, even though she is his own daughter.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of messed up that Rhaenyra does lie and swears an oath in Alicent's face like that. I don't
Hmm.
know why she wouldn't just be truthful if she's like her best friend. I totally get it because her reputation is somewhat ruined now. So I don't know what's going
Hmm.
to happen to her in the future. And maybe this possibly might be the straw that breaks the camel's back as far as like naming heirs. But what it sounds like, they're going to try to force her to marry the sea snake's son, um,
Yeah.
which is
Oh yeah,
actually
I
a
hadn't
pretty
thought
good
of that.
pairing because the sea snake's
That would make sense. Yeah.
And it's a good pairing because I believe the Sea-Snake's son is a dragon rider. Because wasn't he the
Oh, okay.
one that was riding Daemon's dragon while he was like feigning, trying to get the crab feeder out?
Oh, I didn't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, because remember the dragon provided some backup.
I remember that part, but I didn't remember that anyone was riding it at the time.
Yeah, it was Sea-Snake's son was on
Okay.
the back of the dragon. So I think it's a good pairing. It makes sense, but we know that Rhaenyra doesn't care for being married off, and that seems to be kind of like the theme of these last 4 episodes. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I wonder where it's gonna go. I was thinking of something else, but I just lost my train of thought. I forgot what it was. Oh yeah, so I know you I don't think you fully elaborated, but you alluded to before we started, Dusty, that well actually you just explained that why you like episode 3 more than 4, but I think before we started I was saying that I'm torn between liking 1 and 4 for the most for my favorite episodes, but it sounds like you have a different opinion about that. What do you think is your favorite episode?
In the 4 in the total.
Yeah.
If I were to rewatch an episode, I'd probably rewatch episode 1. Because there's just so much stuff that happens in 1. Like there's
There
that
really is, yeah.
journey, there's like the massacre in town, the crazy freaking C-section. Like the pacing of that first episode is great. Very fast paced compared to all the rest of the episodes. I would say my second favorite would have to be 3, and then 4, and then 2.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
So
I'd
1,
say
3,
like
4,
you.
2.
Go
I'm
ahead,
like
Chris.
you. I'm like you, Andrew. I like 1 and 4. 2 and 3 were good. Like every episode's been good. I just feel like 2 and 3 are more fillers. But wasn't there a pattern with Game of Thrones where it was like, there were certain episodes where it was like there was huge, something happened. Like episode 7, for example. You know what I mean? It wasn't always episode 10 that had a huge spoiler or something like that.
It was always episode 9 or 8 that had like the climax.
Yeah,
Because
so
you
it
would
was
have the climax and then like the debriefing for that climax.
Yeah.
8 and 9. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So I wonder if
that
they're going to do
seems-
that again. I wonder if 8 and 9 are going to be. You know what I
Because I
mean?
think
Although,
how many episodes are there going to be? Is it going to be 8 or 10?
I think there's probably only going to be 8 per season. That's a good question, though. I'm going to Google that.
yeah.
How many episodes?
Because there was a lot of stabbing and fighting in 1 and 3. So that's 3. That's why I like 3 too, because there's like a war scene there.
Oh, it says 10 episodes.
Nice.
Okay, so episode 9 is going to be like the big
Yeah.
climax,
there does seem
and then
there does seem to be that pattern in Game of Thrones. Like one episode will have all this epic stuff happen, and after that, or leading up to every really eventful episode, there will be a few 1 or 2 episodes of build up, just setting everything up that's going to happen. That makes sense. That tends to happen for TV shows, which works for TV shows that have several seasons. So that's pretty cool that they can do that. It's interesting too, because that's cool with TV shows, because in books, I usually prefer a faster paced plot, but in TV shows, I have kind of more of a tolerance for a slower plot if I know it's going to lead somewhere more exciting, because I know that they have all this time to build up to more exciting things happening. That's why, like, I'm reminded now of how you and I were talking, Dusty, about how I like episode 3 of the new Lord of the Rings of Power show a lot more than the first 2 episodes, which I found kind of boring, but the third one was much more exciting for me. Yeah, that seems to
Did
be a
you watch
general
episode
pattern.
4?
Yeah, I watched episode 4 the other day.
Okay. What I was
I
gonna
think
say, like thinking about episode 4 in House of the Dragon, um, what did you think about Daemon dropping the dollar store Legolas look?
Oh yeah, he cut his hair. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know why. I don't really know why he did that. It doesn't really make that much of a difference to me.
yeah, the
You
eyebrows
think?
or what throws me off with him, like, the no eyebrows. It's weird.
Well, I like that he doesn't look like
Oh
dollar store Legolas anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Just
that's
going back to
funny.
your point, real quick, Andrew. I agree with you that I think that the Game of Thrones franchise, it's kind of built to be watched week to week. Like I think that, and I've spoken to a few people that have binge watched Game of Thrones, and it's like they like it, but it's like they don't get the same kind of like, I don't know. When Game of Thrones was on, it was culturally every weekday, water cooler. Everybody was talking about the last night's episode, and even what we're doing right now is we're talking about last or the last couple episodes or the first couple episodes of season 1. So it's built to be like to have a pause, I think, and have you reflect on what's going to happen for the
Yeah,
next episode.
yeah. It's cool too because then it gives you time to speculate about what's going to happen next and form all these theories, and that it
Yeah,
forms a really interesting discussion around that.
yeah. Like I
Mhm.
just watched episode 5. Everybody dies. So now we're going to do for episode 6.
No, I don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
Well, I
Imagine they
binge
killed off
watched.
everybody in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I binge watched the first season of Game of Thrones, and then after I finished that first season, I was like, man, I want to know more, and I started reading the books like immediately afterwards because I wanted to know. Because what we had the cliffhanger of Ned Stark getting his head chopped off. I was like, fuck, now I gotta wait a whole year to figure out what's gonna happen with the show. I was like,
Yeah.
I found out that there's books. Let me go read those books. And so I did. So ever since like after the first season, I already knew what was coming. In like the seasons after that, I would already know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of spoiled the TV show for myself, but I thought I spoiled it in a good way because the books are just great. They're awesome. They're just
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
more interesting, detailed versions of like what the TV show was trying to do. And then
hmm
I always try
Yeah,
to
for
go to
sure.
that. If I really enjoy a movie, TV show, or anything like that, if there is source material, I will try to find that source material and read that and view that
Yeah. Yeah, I
instead.
usually do too. I remember for me at first, I read the first book, Game of Thrones, and I didn't like it that much at first, but after after I watched I think it was after I watched the first season of the show, I wanted to retry the book, so I read that one and then I read all the rest of them, and yeah, it was cool. Dusty, that I didn't catch up on the show until relatively recently, finally. So I had
Right.
already, so basically between watching the first I think the first 3 seasons of the show, I read all of the books 3 times, and then I watched the rest of the seasons of the show. So I also had the experience of basically one interesting aspect of that is that you see in the show around what season they start to diverge from the content of the books and then go farther than the plot has gone in the book. So if I remember correctly, I think it's like somewhere around the end of season 5 and then all of 6, 7, and 8, that it goes beyond the plot of the books. So that's really interesting too, because you can't spoil stuff for yourself that way because those books haven't been written yet.
Right.
But that's why
So I
episode
think
8
it's
was so bad, is because they rushed it and they didn't wait for the books. They just kind of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, went ahead with. Well, it's the same guy that is doing this series now. Then they just give him.
no,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no. It's not. It's different. Totally different.
Is it totally different?
Yeah, Benioff and Weiss are like pretty much have been shunned by Hollywood.
You're kind of breaking up there in real
Benioff?
bit, Dusty.
Oh, can you
Yeah,
hear me
I
now?
missed. Sorry, I missed what half of what you said.
Okay, so I was saying the original writers of the TV show,
Yeah.
Benioff and Weiss, they're basically now Hollywood pariahs. They're not doing anything.
Oh, okay.
So because of like the failures of how critically panned like the last season of Game of Thrones was,
Yeah. Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
like fucked with their reputation. And then also they were supposed to direct like a major movie for who was it? It was either like the Star Trek franchise or it might have been even shoot, it might have been Star Wars or something like that.
Oh,
And they
wow.
got shit canned from that.
Hmm.
I don't know if they got shit canned or they quit.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
now they're like not getting anything. We're not seeing anything being ran by them at all. So,
Okay. Yeah, I liked Game of Thrones even season 8 up until the last 2 episodes. I didn't realize until after episode I think there are only 8 episodes in season 8. Yeah. I think it
yeah.
was after season 6 that I realized, oh, there are only 2 episodes left. And then those 2 felt way too phenomenally fucking rushed. Like they could have made a whole other season, really. They could have done 9 seasons. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that. But yeah, that's interesting too, that I didn't know that about the writers of the Game of Thrones show. And I know the House of the Dragon show has been co-created by George R.R. Martin, but I don't
Right.
know how much he has to do with the production. I think he probably has a fair bit to do with it, because I know that this is one of the reasons that he's taking even longer to write Winds of Winter, and hopefully eventually he will actually finish the series. He only technically has to do 2 more books, really. I think he
Well,
only
we'll
had 2 more
see.
planned, but
'Cause
yeah.
he wrote Fire and Blood. It was published in 2018. I don't know when he
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
wrote it, but he could have been working on something else. You know?
Yeah. I think he published 2 books after Dance of Dragons, if I remember correctly. I think he published Fire and Blood, and then I think that other one, The World of Ice and Fire, I think he did both of those after book 5.
Well, how old is that guy? Like, he's over 75 or something like that, isn't
Yeah, yeah, that's why people are always talking about how hopefully he can finish writing the books before he dies.
he? I don't know if he is, man. I'm having like extreme doubts. And what
Yeah,
sucks is like if he doesn't have a successor that he's picked out or something like that, or because I don't know if he heavily outlines or if he has the ending already or what. But
Yeah.
he's
Well,
gonna
didn't
have to
they go
get
to him
somebody else to write it for him, and who's he gonna get? It's not gonna be Sanderson because it's not Sanderson's style. I wonder if
even for season
not
8? Didn't
really
they go to
Joe.
him? Didn't they go to him even
Um,
for the last season for pointers and tips and that kind of shit, just to see where this was
I
going?
think actually the final season there was a rift between R.R. Martin and Benioff and Weiss
oh, okay.
because Martin Benioff and Weiss wanted to prematurely end the show. Like it could have gone on for like more seasons, but they were like, no, we don't want to do anymore. We're gonna stop at 8. or whatever. So there was kind of like a rift between R.R. Martin and the showrunner. So I don't believe that R.R. Martin signed off on the stuff on season 8.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they weren't on good terms for season 8.
Yeah, they packed way too much into there, like all the stuff leading up to the war with the White Walkers, and then also the stuff with the contest to see who gets the throne of the Seven Kingdoms, and Daenerys attacking King's Landing, and then Jon Snow realizing that she's become corrupted and all like erratic with violence, and then he kills her, and then it ends up being Bran that ends up being the new king, and he goes back to the wall to be one of the Night's Watch. All of that shit could have been at least two more episodes per one of those storylines, like I would say.
Yeah, and you just basically described the last 3 episodes of the season,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
which is almost half of the season.
Yeah, yeah. They do have longer episodes in that season. They're an hour and a half long, so they're short movie length, but they still jammed way too much stuff in there.
All right. But yeah, it's a different writing crew. So far, I think they're doing all right. I wonder if they're gonna stick with it for the long haul and not want to like end things short like Benioff and Weiss did. But we'll see, you know. But yeah, going on for longer than 8 seasons, that's like a difficult ask, right?
I
You have
think
to have all the.
when you and
Go
I
ahead.
when you and I talked about this last time, I think I might have looked it up, and I think if I remember correctly, I think they're only doing 5 seasons, which is probably mostly due to that smaller scope that we were talking about. They don't go around Westeros as much, and they're mostly focusing on King's Landing and the Targaryens. So that would make sense too. I think even though there are less seasons, because it's a smaller scope, I think it'll still be easier to not have this really rushed ending like what happened in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and
There'll be
another
something
thing you
else
have
down
to
the
remember. Yeah, I was just saying not just one thing. Another thing we have to remember is that there are 5 seasons. This is just based off of a single book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too. Yeah, 5 seasons based on one book instead of 8 seasons based on 5 books, and then they go beyond the 5 books that are published.
This will keep going on forever too, right? Like the unfortunate thing, like Disney and Star Wars and Marvel and all these franchises, is they can't just stop at 1 or 2 movies and then walk away. It's let's fucking saturate the shit out of it, and let's come up with a movie plot for Daenerys's second, third cousin on an island on another planet. You know what I mean? Like they could go anywhere with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But at least there's like kind of books to back this stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
the only thing I could think about that they could try next is like the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but that's probably just like 1 season of television.
Yeah, yeah. That would be like a mini series. I
They
mean,
could do a
like
prequel on a prequel or something like that.
I
And
mean,
like,
Disney Plus is doing all sorts of shit like that with Star Wars and Marvel. They'll have mini series and then multiple series that are multiple seasons, and then basically season shows that are kind of the equivalent of mini series because they're only 1 seasons, and they're going all over the place in their existing world. So they definitely could do that. Yeah.
yeah, the 2
Yeah, the
shows we're
big
talking about
difference.
tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the big difference is that Disney actually owns the intellectual property. Well, George owns like the IP for Game of Thrones, so it really depends on how much George wants to do at this point.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What were you just saying there, Chris?
Until he passes away. I was just saying, Lord of the Rings. The 2 shows that we've talked about tonight are both like extensions of other. You know what I mean? Like the Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings was Tolkien's So is this news series? Is it based on other books?
Yeah, the new Rings of Power show, it's a prequel, of course, and it's basically based on the appendices of the Lord of the Rings books. But they're kind of grabbing bits and pieces from Tolkien's other work too, like Silmarillion and stuff like that. They're not basing it on that because it takes place in the second age of Middle Earth, and then in Tolkien's other work, like the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales and Book of Lost Tales, it kind of goes through, especially in the Book of Lost Tales, it goes through the entire history of Middle Earth from the first age through to the end of the third age and even beyond that. And the appendices do too, but I think they're mostly focusing on the appendices and specifically the second age in the show. And yeah, I mean, I know I saw the name of one of the characters. I forgot to tell you and Tristram, Dusty, the name of that character, Adar, at the end of episode 3. I saw him mentioned in Unfinished Tales that I'm reading. But yeah, it's like I said, it's mostly taking place during the second age. So we see the backstory of Galadriel and Elrond, and then there are a whole bunch of other characters that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it seems like the series is going to end at the prologue to Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, it does seem that way, which would be really cool.
Because in the prologue of the Fellowship of the Ring, you have the ring getting cut off Sauron's hand. And that's kind of what it feels like this series is going to end on, that big battle and all the stuff that leads up to that.
Yeah.
That war.
Yeah, that'd be
that
really
giant
cool.
war.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the show basically ends up being how Elrond ended up fighting in that war and what happened with Galadriel leading up to it, and
what happens with
yeah,
the Isildur and all that.
yeah, because the Isildur's in it too, and yeah, there's lots of cool stuff. Some stuff that people have been complaining about that I don't like either. Other stuff that people are complaining too much about, in my opinion, that I think is okay. But yeah, I'd say it's worth watching overall. But in my opinion, the Lord of the Rings movies in particular are my favorite in terms of film adaptations and that sort of thing. I kind of like the Hobbit movies too, even though a lot of people hate those. But this is my least favorite so far, but I still like it because it's interesting going into more of the lore and stuff like that. But I know you like it more than I do, Dusty. But yeah.
Yeah, I think right now, for now, what we have, I do like it more than the Hobbit movies. I just think the Hobbit movies are super embellished and they had like so much stuff in there.
Yeah.
But even this is actually super embellished too, but at least it's like an untold story. So it's kind of like this new, it's like we know these events existed, but the story of these events was never told in a lengthy form.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting.
Basically what's happening with House of the Dragon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is really similar in that way. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, it's true because Fire and Blood, like we were talking about, is basically a fake history book, and then the appendices in the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, Book of Lost Tales, all of that stuff is basically fake history, but of Middle Earth too. So it's kind of like transferring nonfiction into the fiction realm and seeing it in story form, which we haven't seen before. There are aspects of those supplemental Tolkien works that are in story form, especially some of what happens in the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales and whatnot, but a lot of it is presented as if it's history too. That's one of the reasons why the Silmarillion and all of those are notoriously boring, because they don't have large parts of it anyway. It doesn't have any sort of story structure.
Yeah, because there are certain chapters you can read that will satisfy a basic story structure. Like I think Baron and Luthien, that's like a story. Turin of Turambar is a story. But like other than that, it's like straight up history, and there's a whole chapter of the Silmarillion that just describes geography.
Mhm.
It's like there are parts of that book that are that boring. But the
Yeah,
very first
yeah,
chapter of the
definitely.
book is like the Bible, straight up. It's like
Yeah,
you're
yeah, it
reading the
really
Bible.
is. Yeah, it's like the epic creation story and all the cosmic wars between basically the good and bad, like religious villains. Like Morgoth is basically the equivalent of Satan, and and the Valar, and basically the gods and demigods, and how Middle Earth was created. Even it's a lot of interesting history and mythology to get into.
Yeah, because Morgoth is like a fallen angel, you know?
Hmm. Yeah,
So that's pretty
he's
interesting.
yeah, it's similar to what we were talking about in terms of that movie, The Devil's Advocate. How the Al Pacino's character who plays the devil is named John Milton because his version of the devil is based on the devil in John Milton's Paradise Lost, and Satan, being a fallen angel and the former right-hand man of God, actually comes from Paradise Lost rather than the Bible, contrary to what people think. So that's such a seminal book in Christianity that people literally think it comes from the Bible, even though it doesn't. So yeah, there's definitely that really clear parallel with Morgoth.
Right. Well, we're getting like way off in the Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
realm
yeah,
here.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, there. If you don't want to read like something that's notoriously boring, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to nerd out about the history and mythology of Middle Earth, it's worth reading. But yeah, I would say similar. I would have, like I said, I would have similar thoughts about House of the Dragon. You don't really need to read it to watch and appreciate the show, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't even recommend it to anybody because it's not the most entertaining thing to read, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of boring in for large parts of it, similar to Silmarillion and Tolkien's supplemental work, I would say.
Yeah, it's basically just a bunch of political intrigue, descriptions of battles that happened, relationships between nations, and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Hmm. So, oh yeah, I didn't give. I was thinking about how I would order the episodes of House of the Dragon so far in terms of my rating. Yeah, I guess I would say if I had to choose, I would say I like one the most, then four, then three, then two. Yeah, I
One,
would say that would be
four,
my
three,
order.
two.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were saying you liked one and four the most, Chris. If you had to rank them from one to four, how would you rank them?
Yeah, so probably
He
episode
has to try
one.
to forget five. Just
Yeah.
blank episode five out of your brain.
Yeah, where everybody dies. Episode one. Episode one would probably be my first one, and then I would go four, and then probably two, and then three.
Okay.
Yeah, just because like shock value. I'd also like to add, like I know like people talk about cultural bullshit before these big shows come out. So like kudos to Game of Thrones for not partic- participating in that. You know what I mean? Like
Like going all woke?
yeah, going all woke or like not. Do you know what I mean? Like they could have censored and structured the plot so that it wasn't talking about marrying underage girls or anything like that,
Oh
but they
yeah.
still, you know what I mean, they didn't give a fuck about getting canceled or anything like that. They went ahead and just did it anyway, which I think is
Hmm.
like, this is what we kind of want in our art, even though well, not everybody wants it in their art these days, but most people
Yeah.
kind of want like a, you know what I mean? So,
Well,
yeah,
rape and
kind of,
incest has always been part of that legacy there.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
No, I know it has, but I mean, there's been like, I don't know, there's been like a pumping of the brakes on a lot of content due to like fear of getting canceled over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah,
And yeah, like I was saying before, some of people's criticisms kind of go overboard. Like for me, people are caring way too fucking much about the race of characters in the Lord of the Rings show and the fact that there are black characters. But then there are some shows that just go totally woke, like one that you and I talked about with Tristram a little bit before Dusty was that new Resident Evil show, which I thought was just fucking terrible, and I agreed with basically everyone else about that.
I haven't seen it, so I will try to eventually just to see the train wreck, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Have you seen that, Chris?
no, I haven't. Yeah, I struggle with just video games based, or sorry, movies based on video games. Like I never watched Mortal Kombat the movie or anything like that. I don't know.
Well, Comet the movie's
Yeah,
pretty good.
they often end up being really bad. I like some of them. I like those especially I'd like in particular the first three original Resident Evil movies with Milo Jovovich, even though I know they're very different from the games. But
Yeah.
I usually am not really a fan of video game movies either.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. The video games should stay video games and not like I don't know. Yeah,
You
the
don't like
Ninja
video
Turtle.
game movies?
Not necessarily. I don't know. It's just they're not my like go-to. It's not my like. I don't know.
Usually, it seems like they're kind of mediocre at best, I would say. I watched that new Uncharted movie based on the games, and I thought it was mediocre. Those because I remember really liking those games and playing them back in the day.
Yeah,
But
like there's no critically acclaimed video game movies, right? I mean, like, yeah, sure, Ninja Turtles with Vanilla Ice, I was a fan of that, but I'm biased because, like, I like the Ninja Turtles. It wasn't actually a really good movie. It was a piece of shit, right? I just, I like it because I'm a fan of the video game. I don't like it because it was actually a well written and acted out, masterpiece by. I don't
Well,
know.
that Silent Hill was pretty decent.
oh yeah, I like that one actually. That was a really good scary movie. I watched the second one, which I didn't like as much, but I really like the first Silent Hill movie too.
I also like the second Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh, I haven't
Okay.
seen those.
Part two is really. Oh, I love Jim Carrey, man. He's just an excellent comedic actor. You just can't lose with that guy.
True.
Yeah.
He is always a good actor.
But
Yeah, they
yeah,
never
I think
fair.
there's decent. There's some decent video game movies, man. They're not all bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't think of any really good ones that I like off the top of my head, other than those first three Resident Evil movies.
Yeah.
Even though they're bad in my opinion, they're bad adaptations, but good movies. Kind of like
Well,
kind of
because I
like The
think most
Shining.
most video games are kind of short plotted anyway, right? Like
Yeah,
this is
they're usually
know.
not centered around the plot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm sure it gets thrown into Hollywood, then you're sitting around with writers that have to
Okay.
expand on this short plot and make it into
Another one.
3 hour
Okay,
thing.
okay,
Yeah.
Andrew. What about I'm not talking about movies here, but what about Castlevania?
Oh, that one was good actually. Yeah, I like that show. Yeah, the Castlevania show is good. I was just thinking of another bad adaptation before that, the new Halo show that I didn't even finish because I thought it was so terrible, but I know you like it a little more than me, Dusty.
I thought it was all right. Like it wasn't. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was the bee's knees either, but I thought it was okay.
Did you see that show, Chris?
No.
No. You can watch it if you want to, but I wouldn't say it's particularly good.
Yeah. No,
But yeah, Castlevania is excellent. I would say that.
Yeah, Castlevania is really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. All right. So yeah, back to House of the Dragon. Yeah, I would say I would say it's a really good show so far, and I'm looking forward to the new episodes more than any other new show I'm watching right now. I'm looking forward to it more than future episodes of the Lord of the Rings show, but yeah, I think they're both worth watching, but I really love that grimdark aspect. I love grimdark fantasy and that whole vibe in Game of Thrones. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in the future in House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to like, the hour night or the Sunday night hour. Yeah, and it's definitely the go-to show. Yeah, no complaints so far. I mean, they've gotten everything right that I like from Game of Thrones. I just hope that I don't know. And now that they've brought it up to this level where it's decent and it's good, it's got me, it's got me hungry every week. I want to tune in. I just hope that they don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't ruin it like they did with the ending of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know. Did they really? I don't know. See, it was such a good show that we're still sticking around for this one, right? So as
Yeah,
bad
for
as that
sure.
ending was, it wasn't like it ruined the whole entire show. It was just that
Yeah. I
the
thought
shitty
like
thing. It was
new
just does not happen to
shows.
be the last season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like for me, I like all of the show except for the last two episodes. I still like most of season 8. And
Yeah, even the
yeah,
season before
it's
that was
still
good, you know?
yeah, that one was good too. Yeah, I like season 7. And yeah, House of the Dragon is still, I think it like new seasons of shows and new shows keep breaking records for most popular streaming show of all time. I know Squid Game might still have the record for the most popular streaming show of all time because it's in Korean. I know that season 4 of Stranger Things broke the record for most popular English language streaming show of all time recently. And then I think House of the Dragon broke records for most popular streaming show for the premiere episode of all time. Like tens of millions of people or something like that have been watching House of the Dragon as it's been coming out. And I bet some of that too is some people were probably looking forward to it because they love Game of Thrones and in spite of the ending. And I bet some people think that the whole show got ruined because of the ending and are also kind of just hate watching it and looking forward to hating on it and stuff. So that would make sense that it would lead to so many people watching it for those reasons.
Do you think that we're going to see White Walkers or Melisandre at all?
Nope.
Oh, that's a good question. I would
don't
say
think
that
so.
probably not. Yeah, because I think it seems like White Walkers have kind of faded into legend until the start of the Game of Thrones show, and it might not make sense to see Melisandre and the Red Sisters because they're supposed to be helping the like the cosmic aspects of the realm and defeating evil, and the White Walkers probably fall into that category. Maybe they don't need to be concerned with events in Westeros until they get to that total like higher cosmic level.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I can gather, there's not. I don't remember any magic in Fire and Blood. Like the only thing that was like magically mysterious is this one event that I don't even think has anything to do with the plot line or storyline that's being discussed. But during Fire and Blood, there's a point where one of the Targaryen princesses runs off for a year, and she returns, and she has like some crazy weird illness, and she had gone to Old Valeria, and when she came back, she was like literally burning from the inside, and after she died, like these weird creatures came out of her body and started
Oh
attacking
wow,
people. It was like, holy shit. I was like, this is like turning into sci-fi now. But
that's
that was like the
interesting.
only thing that was like weird and mysterious in the book. So
Okay.
like dragons aren't a weird and mysterious thing in Fire and Blood. They're kind of
Yeah, I was
known
just thinking about that.
quantities.
That's one cool aspect of the show, that there are a lot more dragons and we see them as commonplace. And you see that in the Fire and Blood book too. And I mentioned this before, but that's an interesting aspect of the comparison between Fire and Blood and House of the Dragon, because House of the Dragon takes place 170 years before the start of Game of Thrones. And people have such amnesia about history in Westeros that everyone forgot that only 170 years previously it was commonplace for Targaryens to be dragon riders, and dragons were not just these myths and legends that people don't believe actually exist at the start of the Game of Thrones show.
Mm. So yeah, I was looking at Netflix's like streaming numbers for like top shows like in history. For Netflix, nothing has topped Squid Game.
Okay.
Like not even by a long shot. Like Squid Game is saying that has 1.65 billion streamed hours.
Holy fuck! Wow.
And the next biggest item there is Bridgerton season 1, and it's
Oh wow.
625
I've never even
million
I've
hours.
heard of that show, but I don't even know what it's about.
Yeah, and it looks like Stranger Things season 1 or season 3 was streamed more than 4, which is crazy because
Oh wow.
4 is pretty good. I
Yeah.
really liked season 4.
Yeah, me too. I liked it more than season 3 too.
Yeah, same here. But
Hmm.
season 2 was less popular than season 3. And maybe they don't even have season 4 yet. This could be a old. Yeah, this is from May 11th, so it's not included. But I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
sure if it was, it'd be up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I was thinking in terms of your question about the White Walkers, Chris and Melisandre, it would be cool to see more magic in this show too, but it seems like maybe the only more high fantasy elements are just going to be the dragons, but I'm happy to see a lot more presence of dragons. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, both of
Hmm.
those were just like rumor questions on I think the Game of Thrones Reddit board. Everybody was thinking Melisandre because apparently, or what is she, 300 years old or some shit in the Game of Thrones uh, series, and I think White Walkers because, yeah, I forget what the reasoning was behind that, but anyway,
Well, they
it's
still exist. They still
interesting.
exist at this like during the
That's
entirety
right.
of the events of House of the Dragon, but they're just not present. I think they maybe just stay in the place beyond the wall for the whole series. I would say, at least according to the history in Fire and Blood. I think.
Mm. Yeah, I just yeah, I don't know. Sometimes these when they do prequels, every once in a while the writers like to throw in like Easter eggs that connect you to the actual Game of Thrones
Yeah.
kind of, you know what I mean? And I just sometimes I don't know. If they don't,
Yeah, they
that's
could
fine.
totally do that. They could totally throw some stuff in there. They're not necessarily being totally faithful to the book and expanding on things too. So that is feasible. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I just came across a list of the most watched TV broadcasts in the United States. The vast majority of these are the Super Bowl from various years.
Oh wow.
But there's some interesting peppering of events in here. Like we have Apollo
OJ
11 as the number one. Yep, OJ is on this
OJ
list.
trial. Yeah.
No,
Oh,
no,
there
not
you
the
go.
trial. Not the trial. The police pursuit is on this list.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
And they were
September 11th, is that on there? Covered?
interesting enough, but I don't see it here.
Oh wow.
Good. We have the last episode of MASH.
Oh yeah.
Richard
I
Nixon's
remember hearing
resignation
that
speech.
was. Oh okay. Wow.
But
Yeah,
most
I
of the
remember-
other things, we have Roots as well. Roots miniseries.
Yeah, a lot of those older shows, long before streaming services existed, were they tended to be more popular because everyone watched shows on cable TV because they had to, right?
Yeah, a lot of these broadcasts, like post cable era, most of them are Super Bowls.
Oh,
And
okay.
like when
Doesn't-
MASH was around, you had a choice of like 8 channels, right? So that was
Yeah, so MASH, that was in 1983. O.J. Simpson, 1994. Also on here is Muhammad Ali versus Leon Spinks, 1978.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we got Roots. Nixon's resignation speech, that's like number 7. Everything else is
Oh,
like
wow.
Super Bowls. But the biggest event ever watched on American television was the Apollo 11.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And I have also some Canadian data here if you want to hear that.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
Let's see, Canada, most watched television broadcast.
2 beavers.
Winter
having
Olympics,
sex.
apparently. Men's hockey game of Canada versus USA, gold medal game.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
pretty big.
This was in February 2010. That's the most watched live
Oh,
broadcasted
wow.
event.
Yeah, I
It
remember
was a
that.
hockey
episode.
game, Olympic hockey game. And what's weird too
Okay.
is you guys have some Super Bowls on here.
Yeah,
So
people love
apparently you
football.
guys.
Yeah, we still watch the Super Bowls here. Just
love
also
football, yeah.
also the Grey Cup.
Yeah,
You
we
have a
our own
lot
league.
of Winter Olympic events on here.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and it looks like many of these events were actually in Canada, so maybe that's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of hockey. So it's like Canada versus USA gold, Canada versus Russia, quarterfinal game, Canada versus Sweden gold medal game. So you guys love your hockey.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
But yeah, your top 20 events, they're all looks to be entirely sports events.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Which
that's
is
cool.
interesting.
Yeah, we're living
So
in
there you go.
idiocracy.
You guys love your hockey and your
Yeah.
Super Bowls.
Hello?
Yeah. It didn't.
Okay.
Oh, he's toking a toke there.
Yep.
Toking a toke.
All right. So, any other aspects about House of the Dragon that you guys wanted to talk about?
Well,
I gotta
can't wait
get going.
See the next
Okay.
episode. Where supposedly
Yeah.
everybody dies. Thanks for ruining.
It's only dragons left, and it's just dragons from here on out.
That would be an interesting
It's
show.
just dragons. They
I-
don't even talk.
I hope they don't make them talking dragons, though. That would be terrible.
Yeah. It becomes the desperate housewives of the land of. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Dragon Desperate Housewives, Westeros edition.
Exactly. They just become dramatic all day, and
Oh, that'd be so funny. All right, yeah,
King's
yeah. I'm
part.
looking forward to episode 5 too, and let's try to tentatively talk about episode 5 next weekend if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, sure.
And if not, we could talk about episode 5 and 6 the week after that. And yeah, that's great. So yeah, thanks for talking with me about this, guys. Awesome new show. If any of you watching this haven't seen the show, you've gotten a whole bunch of spoilers, but I highly recommend it. And yeah, check out our other chats that we've done about the other episodes in House of the Dragon so far. And everyone should also check out our chats that Dusty and I are doing with our fantasy nerd friend Tristram on the new Lord of the Rings Rings of Power show. And we're going to talk about episode 4 and 5 of it next weekend. And yeah, subscribe to the channel, click that like button on this video, share it everywhere, click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos, and check out my Patreon page. If you give me $10 a month, you can vote on future books, topics, and movies that I will discuss both by myself and with others. And any other amount is greatly appreciated as well. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And check out the new House of the Dragon show. It's awesome and is living up to the good aspects of Game of Thrones so far. And yeah, anything else? Oh yeah, also check out Dusty's channel as well, Woke Centrist, of course, where we're cross posting these. I'll send you soon the last episode that you and Tristram and I did on Rings of Power, Dusty, and I'll send you this one sometime this week too. And yeah, anything else you guys want to say before we end it there?
No, I'm good. Yeah, just visit my channel. I'm gonna be uploading something soon. I know I was gonna do like a short little review of Deerskin. It's just gonna be like a 5-minute review. Because I
Of
read
what?
so many goddamn books, I need to actually review the things that I read. It's like,
Yeah,
Jesus, there's so much fucking content I can add to my channel. Just me being a
yeah, I
lazy
know, right?
asshole.
Yeah, that's what I do too. And then I do entire long series on all the long philosophy books and stuff that I read.
Yeah, so this
Definitely good
this
for
week
lots
I'm
of
gonna do a
content.
really short, like little review of Deerskin.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one you were telling me about. And I've read that one too. It does it does have a weird ending.
Yeah, magical period blood. It has a fucking
Yeah,
really brutal opening, like
yeah,
incest rape. It's like, wow, this is really grimdark. I was not expecting
yeah,
that. Because the other book by this author is like totally like YA, like young
yeah,
YA. And then I read this, I was like, holy shit, you're going off the rails here.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, check that out. Uh, fellow fantasy nerds watching this, upcoming on Dusty's channel, that review of Deerskin by who's that author again?
Robin
Tracy Hickman
McKinley?
or Robin McKinley? Yeah. Check
Tracy
that out as well.
Hickman, that's Dragonlance, my guy.
Right. Yeah, that's why I had that name in my head. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say before we end it there, Chris?
No, I just put my link as my name right now. So if you want to check out all my music and Substack, it's all there in one link.
Yeah.
Yay.
Check out all that. Your music is great.
Thanks.
All right. No problem,
Yeah, it's
man.
like Tim Pool, but better.
Yeah, man,
Yeah, way better.
I can't believe he's making music and he wears it too. It's like he's killing me. I don't know.
Yeah. You should
I
almost
like the
put
some
it
black
in the
guy
brackets.
retort to his video is like way better.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. I should watch it.
Yeah,
No,
some
but
black
like,
guy is like a better musician than Tim Pool.
Yeah, I really liked his. I watched his cover of a Killswitch Engage song that I thought was really great.
yeah, he's got. It's just like I don't know. He can play. It's yeah. Yeah, it's just
All right.
Yeah,
Well, he plays more metalist stuff. He's like not the light, airy, panty wetting music that real musicians don't care about.
I
Yeah,
saw
that's
that.
fine.
I saw that some people were comparing Tim Pool's song to Nickelback.
It's definitely harder
Yeah, I
rock,
saw
but
that
you can
too.
tell it's like he's got the money to get musicians in to play good. Like the video I watched, he's like the drummer's really good and all the like I don't know. When you got money, you can make yourself look and sound fucking incredible, right? So
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Thanks again, everyone, for watching, and adios until next time.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.